Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. I'm so glad to be with so many of you. I see some familiar faces in the audience and a lot of new viewers. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. I see people from all over the world here. I see Germany, Oklahoma, Norway, Missouri, Denmark, England. Really amazing to see viewers from all over the world. These Facebook Lives really have a way of bringing us all together from the four corners of the world. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We love seeing where you're all from. So if you haven't written us yet, please do put a comment in there. Let us know where you're joining us from, what the weather is like where you are. We'd love to hear. It's a very exciting Facebook Live that we have today. As Maria wrote just in the comments right now, excited for a topic that is not discussed enough. And that is so, so true. We have a great session today. We have with us Richard Hill, and he'll be talking about DNA testing for adoptees and those with unknown parents. So really a fantastic topic. Before we get to today's session, just a couple updates about things that we have going on at MyHeritage. A few promotions that we have. We have the MyHeritage gift membership. It's something that we just started offering a few weeks ago in time for the holidays. The MyHeritage gift membership allows you to give a gift of a MyHeritage complete subscription to your loved ones, friends, family, anyone that you would like. And we're offering them at an introductory price, a discount of 50% off. So it's really a fantastic gift. And unlike things that have to be sent in the mail, this can be sent at any time. So really, if you're worried about gifts not making it in time, if you still have people on your list, this is a great gift. So we'll put a link to it in the comment section, and we hope that you're able to take advantage of this, a great deal. So we hope that you're able to take a look. In addition, we have a MyHeritage DNA sale going on, and that is our December holiday sale. So we'll also put a link to that in the comment section. And I'm sure you'll hear more today about the importance of testing many members of your family with the DNA test. So we'll hear more about that later, I'm sure. Our speaker is Richard Hill, and he was really the first adoptee to find his birth family through a genetic genealogy DNA test back in 2007 with an amazing story. He shared his decades-long search story in the award-winning book, Finding Family, My Search for Roots and the Secrets in My DNA. He then later launched DNA Testing Advisor, the website, in 2008. As well as a Facebook page that goes along with it in 2011. He presents at numerous conferences, I think now virtually, mostly, and we're just so thrilled to have him with us today. So let me bring him on to say hello to all of us. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Esther, and everyone else.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you with us, and I think we all just have so much to learn.
Yeah, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, so I'm happy to speak about it.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about that story about being the first, being a pioneer in this field. How did that come about?
Well, I often use the term accidental pioneer because I kind of stumbled into this. But I think most people on the call today were probably genealogists first and then got into genetic genealogy. And I did this backwards. I was adopted. I had no particular interest in building a family tree. And then when I decided to search for my biological family, I searched on and off for 25 years or so, and then eventually got into the DNA testing as a way to solve the last piece of my mystery.
Incredible.
Once I had that, once I knew what all my biological relatives were, then I got interested in genealogy and started building trees for them, and then a little bit on my adoptive family and my wife's family. So now I'm into the genealogy as well.
Incredible. Well, we can't wait to learn more about this. I know that there are so many people out there searching for biological family and really hoping to find those missing clues. So hopefully today we'll give people some new avenues that they can explore. We really hope so. So shall I bring up your slides?
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Fantastic. One moment. Okay, great. We see it up here.
Okay. All right. Well, as Esther said, ever since 2008, I have been writing about DNA tests under the name DNA Testing Advisor. And my website can be viewed on both computers and mobile devices. If you're using a computer, you'll see the 3-column format as shown here. If you're on a mobile device, you'll basically see the center column. You'll scroll through that, and then it shows the first column and the third column. So that's kind of the way it adapts for mobile users. I also post several times a week on my DNA Testing Advisor Facebook page. Well, what we're talking about today, I'm going to use the word adoptees a lot, but there's really a lot more than just adoptees involved here. They're not the only ones searching for biological families. Children of sperm donors are searching now and finding their biological fathers. There are many people who were forcibly separated from their biological family, often because of terminated parental rights. There's people that were black market babies, and there's even an occasional kidnapping case. So lots of reasons there. And then, of course, a big category is just so many people who discover as adults that the man who raised them was not their biological father. Some people discover this through the actual DNA testing themselves, and other people just discover it through some other reason, a family secret coming out or something. And then, of course, there's just genealogists that are searching for lost family branches. I mean, how many of us know that our grandparents and great-grandparents had siblings, probably many of them, but we probably don't know all the descendants of all those siblings. So they can also show up through this kind of search. Here are some key acronyms that you should know. The term LDA refers to late discovery adoptee. And that's someone like me who grew up not knowing they were adopted, and then only as an adult discover that rather crucial fact about your background. NPE is a term you will run into. It stands for not the parent expected. Say if you take a DNA test and gee, you're getting a lot of matches to your mother's side, but you don't seem to find any to your father's side. And it's, some people encounter that kind of a surprise. And another term being used for that is MPE, which stands for misattributed parental event. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover today. I will share some highlights of my own personal search, but much of the talk will be about DNA testing strategies and tools. And then I'll close with some important resources that genealogists in general and adoptees in particular will want to know about. Well, here's a photo of my birth mother, taken when she was 15 years old. A few years later, she found herself pregnant and unmarried. So she did what many girls did back then. She arranged for an adoption and left town before her pregnancy showed. My adoptive parents were kind of friends of a friend and had been unable to bear children. After taking me home from the hospital, they simply passed me off as their natural child, which is something many adoptive parents were told to do back then. If it were not for an accidental revelation when I was 18, I might still not know that I was adopted. I was in my 30s before I decided to search for my biological roots, and I identified my birth mother, but she had already died. But I did find a great brother. And then I spent decades trying to identify my birth father. Long before the internet, I tracked down several people who had known my mother and still remembered some of the men she had dated. But I just reached one dead end after another. Finally, I happened to hear a genealogist friend describe the Y DNA test. Only men have a Y chromosome, and it passes down from father to son, generation after generation. Well, knowing that surnames usually pass down the same way, I wondered if this test could reveal my father's last name. And I decided it was worth a try. Over the years, I had identified a long list of men who would have been around my mother. The living ones I spoke with had all been eliminated, and the others were mostly deceased. But one of the men had the same last name as my DNA match. Now, by then he was long gone, but with the help of a local genealogy group, I tracked down a niece of his who agreed to help me uncover the truth. She gave me this photo. The man my mother surely knew was one of 5 brothers, a fact that raised a new complication. All 5 would have inherited the same Y chromosome from their father, and all 5 had been in the same geographic area as my mother. So any one of them could have known her and passed on that Y chromosome to me. So now, instead of one suspect, I had 5. And worse yet, all of them were long gone. Fortunately, all the men had living children. I convinced one child of each man to take a sibling test with me. This is essentially a paternity test. But unlike the parent-child comparison, such testing can only calculate a probability that 2 people are siblings. The results pointed to the guy in the middle as my father, with 80% certainty. The whole family welcomed me with open arms, and I began to build a relationship with my newfound siblings and cousins. A few years later, a new type of test became available. Autosomal DNA testing checks DNA we inherit from both parents, and both men and women can test. And the people you match can be related through any branch of your family tree, out to 5 generations or so, and sometimes more. These new tests are also great for relationship testing. Unlike the old technology sibling tests, these actually measure how much DNA 2 people have in common. When I was trying to identify my father, I was trying to distinguish a half-sibling from first cousins. Well, on these new tests, the difference is obvious, with half-siblings sharing around 25% and first cousins sharing only half as much, around 12.5%. Five years had passed since I first found my family, and the results of these new tests identified a different brother as my father. As a result, some of my cousins became siblings, and some siblings became cousins. But it all worked out, and I am now very close to my birth family. This is my father as a young man, and then there's me at roughly the same age. Comparisons like this are obviously fun for anyone, so you can kind of imagine how exciting it is for an adoptee to see pictures of biological ancestors. When I began my search, this man was still alive, but my birth mother never told him about me, and with all the secrecy surrounding my birth, I was unable to identify him until it was much too late for us to meet. If you want to read the full story of my decades-long search, my book is called Finding Family: My Search for Roots and the Secrets in My DNA. It's available in print, ebook, and audiobook formats from Amazon and elsewhere. You can also order it through your local bookstore. I am pleased to report that Finding Family has been extremely well received by both regular readers and by professional book reviewers. I'm sharing one such review here, plus a summary of what's now 540 customer reviews on Amazon. Well, now let's talk about today's DNA testing strategy. The advice you often hear is to fish in all the ponds. Well, there are now dozens of DNA tests offered online for various purposes, but the only ones that can help you find your family are those that report your genetic matches. And that means these 5: MyHeritage DNA, Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, Family Finder from Family Tree DNA, and Living DNA. Your breakthrough match could come in any one of them, which is why you need to get into all these databases. When your results are ready, you check your closest matches. Now, the closer the match, the easier it should be to identify the common ancestor. And as the databases have gotten bigger, the chance of getting a close match has greatly improved. Here's what Blaine Bettinger found in his most recent survey of adoptees. When adoptees logged into their DNA accounts, 71% of them saw a half first cousin or closer, and 92% saw a half second cousin or closer. I have been blessed to discover 4 half siblings that are all very important to me. Here's how those 4 matches appear on my account at MyHeritage. The details are probably too small to read, so I've listed the key data point: how much DNA each one shares with me in a unit called centimorgans. One of the most useful tools ever made for evaluating DNA matches is the shared centimorgan tool at DNA Painter. It's based on 60,000 matches surveyed and analyzed by Blaine Bettinger. For a closer view, I'm going to zoom in on the center of the table outlined here in red. This shows how much shared DNA you can expect to find with various relationships. Okay, let's look at half sibling. The top number, 1759, is the average amount of shared centimorgans for a half sibling. The numbers below that show the range from minimum to maximum. So as you can see, there is quite a bit of variation in every relationship. Notice that the average for half siblings is about the same as for a grandparent-grandchild pair and for what an aunt or uncle would share with a niece or nephew. In most cases, you can tell from other information, such as relative ages and relationships, that 2 of the 3 are not possible. As the amount of shared centimorgans decreases, the number of different relationships that could account for any given centimorgan value goes up dramatically. This is actually an interactive tool where you can enter any number of shared centimorgans and see the possible relationships and their probabilities. For my 4 half-sibling matches, the least I shared was 1,440, and the most was 2,048. So let's see what the tool says for my personal extremes. In the example on the left, I entered my lowest match of 1,440. With that number, there is a 94% probability that we are half siblings or one of the other relationships at the same degree. With this match being at the lower end of the range, there is still a tiny chance that we are only first cousins. Now, in the example at the right, which is my highest half-sibling match, there is still a small chance that we could be full siblings. Well, fortunately, known facts will often eliminate the less likely relationships, as they did in my case. If you get a first cousin match or closer, that may be all you need to identify one birth parent. This is why you need to get into all the key databases. I really can't stress this enough. It is just so much easier working from a close match. So you want to exhaust every possibility of finding one before you turn to plan B, which is working with the more distant matches. Well, one of the best tools for working with more distant matches is autoclusters. MyHeritage is the only DNA test that has licensed this tool to work directly from your account. So if you log into MyHeritage in your DNA section, you click on Tools first, then you choose Autoclusters, and then when you see the information about autoclusters, you click on the button that says Generate. And in a little while, you will get an email. This might take 10 minutes, might take an hour, I don't know. It may vary, but the point is you will get a zip file that when you open it up has 3 files in it. The first one you want to look at is the README file, which is a PDF file, and that gives you important information about what you're looking at. Second file you'll get is a CSV file, which can be opened up in a spreadsheet program. And the third file you'll get is an HTML file, which you should be able to open up and view in your browser. So let's do that now with my approach. Okay, what you're seeing here with autoclusters, this is displaying clusters of your matches. And it doesn't look at the really closest matches because they're not helpful for this, or the most distant ones. You're actually picking up matches that are in the range of 35 to 400 centimeters of common DNA with you. And the point is that members of a cluster, they all match you, and they match most or all of the other cluster members. If you look at the list here, it's too small to see it, but what you're seeing down the left column is the names of these matches. And across the top are the same names, so that they start with the same name. So that diagonal line down the middle is simply the same person matching with the same person. But so you can look at either the upper right side or the lower left side of this, and you'll see that for any given person, if there's all the squares are colored going across, that means they match every other person in that cluster. Where there are some white spots, that means that's a particular match that does not occur. The point is that you all probably share a common ancestry. And the match to each cluster could be from your paternal side, or it could be from your maternal side. Just looking at it like this, there's no way to know which is which until you dig into it. I think another important thing to remember here is that the default order is simply by cluster size. The red cluster is shown first because it's the biggest one, and the orange cluster is next. It doesn't mean that the red cluster is the one where you're going to get your answers. You could find your best clues in any one of them. So there's all kinds of places to look for clues here. Now, I'm not going to get into great detail on autoclusters. There's a previous Facebook Live session by Roberta Estes that does that nicely. And you can watch it later in the videos section of the MyHeritage Facebook page. You can also use autoclusters on matches from some other companies. For that, you need to go to the Genetic Affairs website. Now, Ancestry DNA no longer allows this tool to access your data on their site. Manual clustering is still possible, but that obviously requires a lot more time and effort. Okay, let's see how an adoptee might be able to use autoclusters. Let's look at my group 4, which only includes 6 people. Now, the next step is to open up the spreadsheet file that came in that email. Here's a portion of the spreadsheet data for group 4. Now, this file includes links to any posted family trees. And the column where I've added circles tells how many people are in each tree. The first one with only 2 people will not be helpful. And the last one refers to the same family tree as another match. Well, by clicking these links, I can see each tree in my browser. Now, some trees will be private, but these all happen to be public trees. So here are 2 of these trees seen using the fan view on MyHeritage. I really like the fan view, first of all, because you can see so many names at once. And also the rings really suggest where you might find your common ancestors for second, third, fourth cousins, etc. In this case, one person's tree goes back much farther on the mother's side. The other one happens to go much farther back on the father's side. But in both trees, I find the same man out in the fourth cousin ring, Thomas E. Bentley. Since he is their common ancestor, he might be mine too. Once you find a common ancestor, you can apply reverse genealogy. Now, I researched the descendants of Thomas Bentley to find someone of the right age to be a young parent living in the time and place of my birth. And that's what you would want to do. In this case, the common ancestor was actually another generation back. My birth mother descended from a brother of Thomas Bentley. Keep that in mind. You may need to back up a generation to find your direct ancestor. While autoclusters groups people who share a common ancestor with you and each other, you might not all share the same common ancestor, but you can check that out through triangulation. This process goes beyond the clusters to look for shared segments on individual chromosomes. If you do share segments, then it is even more likely that you share the same ancestor. So to do that on MyHeritage, you're going to choose Tools and then Chromosome Browser. Again, using an example from my autoclusters. Now, in this case, I changed the sort order, which is set up at the top, from cluster size to the amount of shared DNA. This puts my closest relatives at the top of the list. When I hover my mouse over the one named John, well, there's a pop-up that shows that he is in cluster 9 with 3 other people. I then use the chromosome browser tool to compare these 4 people to myself. This shows that all 4 of them share a common segment with me on chromosome 6. MyHeritage even marks and counts the triangulated segments for you. Okay, here are some other tools that are lower priority than the autosomal DNA testing. Now, Y-DNA testing did find the surname of my birth father, but this obviously can only work for men. And I'm guessing the success rate is probably no better than 50%. As for mitochondrial DNA, everyone has that kind of DNA, and it does pass directly down the maternal line. But the way that female surnames change at every generation, it's rarely useful for identifying a birth mother because the matches you get will probably be many generations back. Now, ethnicity reports are usually too mixed to help identify parents, but sometimes they can provide clues when a certain distinct but unexpected ancestry shows up, such as African or Jewish. With more than 30 million people in the autosomal DNA databases, adoptee success rates have been climbing steadily. The latest survey by Blaine Bettinger shows that as a result of DNA testing, 64% of the adoptees identified a parent and 31% found a sibling. Success rates like this are helping put pressure on states to give adoptees access to their original birth certificates. And that's because secret records are no longer the barrier that they used to be. When you do get a close relative match, I recommend that you approach carefully and discreetly. You just don't know what your birth parents have shared with their families or how welcome you will be. As with many other things, I think the acceptance of an adult adoptee by a birth family can be illustrated by a bell curve. Acceptance is warmer on the right and colder on the left. At the right end of this curve, you encounter relatives who have been actively searching for you and will be absolutely thrilled to hear from you. But at the left end, there's a birth mother who still feels shame over that long ago pregnancy, who never told anyone about your birth, and lives in fear that you might find her. Now, most cases will fall somewhere in the middle of these extremes, but you just don't know the situation you're going into, so be careful and discreet. Now, it's important to keep in mind that adoptees have vastly different results from DNA testing. And one huge factor is simply luck, because it impacts every step of the search. How close are your DNA matches? Do they have extensive public trees? Will people reply to your inquiries? And finally, how receptive is your biological family? Okay, there are many, many resources that can help adoptees and others with DNA testing. I'm going to give you a few of them here and show you how to find hundreds more. Even though DNA test prices have dropped dramatically, some adoptees cannot afford to test. I am on the advisory board for a MyHeritage program called DNA Quest. This program initially gave away 15,000 DNA test kits to adoptees and the families that are searching for them. Later, they gave away another 5,000 kits. This made possible many, many reunions, and I thank MyHeritage for this, and I'm hoping they will do it again. A much more limited but ongoing program is the Kits of Kindness program. This program accepts donations and buys large numbers of test kits whenever they go on sale. Then they give them away to many of the people who apply for free testing. This is a cause that I personally supported. If you or someone you know discovers an NPE, not the parent expected, and has trouble dealing with it, emotional help is available. Once someone joins through this gateway, he or she will be assigned to a secret group of people dealing with a similar situation. I get thousands of questions a year about DNA testing. And to help me direct people to the relevant resources, I have collected over 250 useful links. And I now offer a free PDF file that lists them all. You can download the file from the home page of my website. Then you can look through it and simply click on the links of interest. Your browser should take you directly to each resource without having to type in any long addresses. Well, that's the end of my slides, and we should have time for a few questions. So I'm inviting Esther to take over.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we get to the questions, I just want to let everybody know that anyone who puts a comment in the comment section will enter our draw to win a MyHeritage DNA kit. So that'll definitely get you on your journey. If you've already taken a DNA kit, a DNA test, you could send it to a family member, somebody that you'd like to get tested. So all that you have to do is put a comment in the comment section, a question for Richard that he can answer, and you'll be entered. And after the questions, we will pick one lucky winner. So let's see, before we get to the questions, I just, Richard, if it's okay for you, I wanted to read out a couple really, really nice comments that we received while you were speaking. There were a few really nice ones that I thought we could just highlight. Let's see where we have these. I saw one here from Liz, and Liz said, "Thanks to y'all, I found my birth family. I've been searching for 15 years. Thank you, guys." So really, really incredible, Liz. That sounds amazing, and we'd love to hear more about your story. Please let us know how that happened. We would love to hear. We also had this comment from Yvonne, and she said, "After searching for my father for many years, I took a MyHeritage DNA, and I was sent a DNA match for my father, a 48% match." So definitely, as Richard said, widen the pool and test with MyHeritage, or if you've tested elsewhere, upload your DNA results to MyHeritage and see what you can get. We also just received some fantastic comments about the presentation. Let's see, we have Ron said, "Excellent presentation, simplifies many aspects of genealogy and DNA testing." Kathy said, "Thank you for this webinar. It was so wonderful." And people are asking if it's available. So as Richard was saying before, all of the Facebook Lives that we've done on MyHeritage, including the one from today, will be available on the MyHeritage Facebook page. That's facebook.com/MyHeritage under the videos section. So you'll see all of our past presentations as well as today's, just a little bit after today's presentation. If you missed anything, or if you just would like to rewatch it, feel free to do so. So let's see, let me get to a few of the questions that we have in the comments. Let's see. Jill asks, "I am trying to locate my mother's biological father. Which generation do I need to start from to research this?"
Well, if your mother is alive, that's who you want to test. If you test yourself, it's going to be a lot harder because you're a step away.
Okay, great. We have Caroline says, "I'm looking forward to looking at cluster matches. Thank you for bringing that to my attention." So that's very nice. Let's see what other questions we have here. We have Nick. He said, "I'm adopted from Greece and I know literally nothing about my origins. My closest DNA match is less than 100 centimorgans. Can auto-clustering help? What else do you recommend? I've tested with everyone."
Well, as I said, luck plays a factor. And part of the factor in your case is that your parents were not in the US. So not as many people from there have tested. And so your chances of getting a close relative are a lot smaller. again, certainly try the autoclusters. Again, just going through the steps I did today to see if any of your people in a given cluster happen to have information in a family tree. They might have ancestors from Greece that would be their ancestors and your ancestor as well. But it is a lot harder when you've for people with foreign birth.
Okay, let's see. Jonathan asks, how do you feel about getting your ethnic results? I suppose this is specifically for adoptees. Can ethnicities play a factor, help us in our journey?
I did mention that briefly. That's why I put it as a lower priority thing. I mean, you certainly want to look. If you're going to do any of those 5 DNA tests that I mentioned, you're going to have available to you an ethnicity report. And you will probably be shocked to see how different they are, because each company uses different reference populations, divides up the regions differently, has different proprietary algorithms for comparing your data to the reference populations. So it's not at all uncommon to see many different results, but certainly take a look at them. As I alluded to, for most Americans, we're a bit of a Heinz 57, and with a mixture of mostly European ancestry. If you have ancestry outside of Europe and it shows up on the test, that could give you an important clue if you didn't know that. But as a rule, they're probably not helpful in solving this mystery, although they may still be very fascinating.
Okay, let's see. Valerie says, this is the first time I have watched this and can tell you that I will be joining again. Thank you for the presentation. So Valerie, actually you're in luck. We just posted on the MyHeritage blog a list of all of the online events that we have coming up in December. So that's blog.myheritage.com. On the MyHeritage blog, there's a new post where we list all the upcoming online events that we have for this month. So we do hope that you and others will join us for those upcoming events as well. Let's see, Richard, we have Melanie who asks, can you explain half-cousin matches?
Well, yeah. Okay, first of all, a cousin is someone who shares a set of grandparents with you. So your mother or father, they have siblings, and that cousin is descended from one of those siblings. If it's a half cousin, then they probably only share, let's say instead of sharing 2 grandparents, maybe only share 1. Maybe your grandmother was married twice, and maybe you came from her first husband, and your match came from her second husband. So therefore, you only have 1 grandparent in common instead of 2, so you will have less DNA in common instead of 2. And there's all kinds of half relationships. And if you go into the DNA Painter program that I was showing, you'll see a lot of those half relationships are in there. And as you get farther out, there's so many possibilities. Plus, there's the first removed, second removed, second cousin once removed, or first cousin 3 times removed, and things like that are all possible explanations as you get down into the smaller numbers of shared DNA.
We have a question from Anna, and she says, I'm curious how adoptees draw their family tree with both branches, with biological ancestors and those who raise them are only biological. So maybe you can tell us when you're starting to draw up your tree as an adoptee, what are the best methods?
Well, certainly you can explore all the family trees. You do need to keep them separate, though, other than maybe you might want to do a display table. There was a recent, I posted recently on my Facebook page where you can get a template where you can download it, a free template, and then you can display. It shows off into 4 different branches, one for each of your 4 parents. And that's cute for display purposes. You can actually fill in the names and dates and stuff, and it would come up with one sheet of paper. It takes all 4 branches out to your, I think it's at least to your grandparents, maybe great-grandparents, I don't remember. If you're actually doing research on them, you got to keep them totally separate because in most cases you're not at all related to each other. And if you're doing DNA testing, then the family trees that are important are the family trees of your biological ancestors, because you're not going to find DNA matches to your adoptive family. As I said, I got involved once I found my biological family. That got me into interest in genealogy, and I started building their trees. I was very excited to start building a tree for these biological roots, find out where they came from. Then after I kind of got into that a ways, I decided, well, I should do something for my adoptive father's side, because I don't know anybody had done anything on that. My adoptive mother's side, there was a cousin that had researched that. In fact, 2 cousins had researched that extensively. So I didn't bother to do anything on that because that work had already been done. But that's pretty much it. For research purposes, you got to keep them separate.
Okay, we have Phi who asked, for a female foundling, how do you know which side of the family are the maternal and paternal? What are the ways to figure it out?
Well, that's one challenge with the autosomal DNA testing, is that when you get your matches, there's nothing obvious that tells you usually what side they come from, unless there might be a distinct geographical difference. Like I know, like in my wife's case, her father's side were immigrants from Croatia from the early 1900s. So if you look at her matches, you've got a whole bunch of people with Slavic names, come from, Croatia or other parts of that part of the world. They kind of stand out versus her mother's side, which is more from, England, France, Germany. So sometimes there's clues like that, but for the most part, you really can't tell until you get into the research. And once you get to a point where you do have someone identified, like say you have found your mother, but you're still looking for your father, well, then you definitely want to test your mother or a very close relative to your mother, like her sister or something like that. Because then when you look at your autosomal matches, you can use the in common features, because then you will know that any match who matches you and your mother must come from your mother's side. But people who match you and don't match your mother probably come from your father's side. So once you get a chance to test one branch, then that really helps.
And I see a few questions about what Richard's website is. So we're putting a link up right now, and you'll see it in the comments. It is DNAtestingadvisor.com, and we'll put a link there so everyone can take a look as well. Let's see if we have any other questions here. I think that we can get to one more, and then we will choose a winner for today's draw. Let's see, Carrie asks, Is there a way to use other biological family members' DNA to possibly find a half-sibling's biological father? Most of us have the same biological mother.
Would you go through that one again?
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there a way to use other biological family members' DNA to possibly find one of our half-siblings' bio father? Most of us have the same biological mother.
Right. Well, it kind of goes back to the thing I just mentioned, that you test somebody else from your mother's side, and then where the differences can be with the different results may be because of the different fathers.
Okay. And I see questions about recommending different testing companies. So just to remind everyone that MyHeritage DNA kits are on sale right now for the, we have a holiday sale. And if you order now, you can still get them in time for the holidays. So we'll put a link in the comment section to that. It's myheritage.com/DNA. So we recommend that you all check it out and take a look. I did see a question earlier, Richard, maybe you could address this. How come you would match somebody on one company and not on another company? Somebody asked that earlier.
A simple answer is that they haven't tested with all the companies. And that's why you want to be in all the databases, because so many people, for whatever reason, they go in and they test one place. And so if you don't test the same place, you're not going to show up as a match to them. Where, as I said, it's so much easier if you get a close match. So, I mean, you can do one at a time if you want. You test one, you don't get a close match, you can try another one, try the transfers into the databases that will accept transfers. You can keep building it up that way. Or if you've got, if you're in a big hurry, and which probably should be, because some of your birth parents are getting up there in age. If you're like me, they're gone. You know, just order all 5 of them all at once.
And I think something that we hear all the time is, you know, it's never too late. People who have been looking for tens of years, for decades, you know, they suddenly one day they find a match. So I think that's the thing, that's the theme we hear a lot, which is don't lose hope. And as more and more people test, even as the database grows on MyHeritage, for example, as more and more people test, you have greater chances of finding close matches. So it's not just like you test once and then whatever matches you have, that's it. It's that you can continuously get more and more matches, and hopefully close ones.
Yes, that's a big case. With any of these tests, you are not just getting your initial report, which is why companies just don't send out a list of matches in the mail. You get a place to log in and check your matches, because you go in a month later and check your matches, you're going to find more of them. So I know, like in my case, I mentioned that I did a Y-DNA test with Family Tree DNA that gave me one very close match to a man that had my birth father's surname. Well, that was in 2007. I go into my results now on my Y-DNA matches. I think I have 9 or 10 people with my birth father's surname. It's because that many more people have tested.
Amazing. That's incredible. So that's all the time we have for questions today. And now we'll be giving away a MyHeritage DNA kit to one lucky winner who posted a comment in the comments section. And today's winner is Lori Ann White. And Lori wrote, "I'm really glad I watched this. I am adopted, and so is my 83-year-old dad, and we are trying to solve both mysteries." So, Lori, we will be in touch with you through private message. Congratulations, and we hope that a MyHeritage DNA kit will help you a little bit with breaking down those mysteries and learning more about your family history, about your biological family, as well as your father's biological family. So good luck with that, and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today. As I said, we have a list of all of our upcoming Facebook Lives and webinars. We also have an Instagram Live coming up in the next few weeks. So you can see a list of all that on the MyHeritage blog, blog.myheritage.com. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
We did too. It was really our pleasure to have you, and we learned so much. I see just the comments are pouring in. Everyone just really, really enjoyed it. And just again, for anyone who missed some of it or who wants to rewatch today's session, I'm sure there'll be many who do want to. You could see it under the video section on the MyHeritage Facebook page. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Richard, and have a great day to everybody. Bye, everybody.
Bye.